What is up, guys? Rambling Collector back here again, and today I am here to cover the light novel I Am Blue, in Pain, and Fragile by Yoru Sumino. And I've actually just finished this one as of today, and I will tell you right now, this one honestly hurt. By the end of it now, this one actually hurt me emotionally as I was reading it. And you will find out more as I go through the review, which I will tell you all right now. I will warn you that there will be spoilers throughout this whole entire book. All I will say was that I was not expecting this drama type story, which I at first thought was going to be like a tragic romance, but in the end it definitely surprised me, and by the end of it now there is only just like a physical punch to the gut, or I guess emotional punch to the gut in this case, and just like a hollow feeling. Like, this one just hurt to read. I'm not even gonna lie to you guys. This one like just honestly hurt. But I think I've rambled enough, so let's go ahead and get into the book. And once again, I warn you guys, there will be spoilers for this one. So essentially, from what I gathered from this book, it was essentially the story of two students who met each other in their freshman year, Kaede and Akiyoshi. They both met each other in one of their classes during freshman year in university, and it shows how at first they actually struck up a friendship, with Akiyoshi actually wanting to found an organization called Mowai, where its dedication was to find a person's ideal self. And I really like the difference between these two. Like, Kaede, for instance, was a very physical manifestation of just not wanting to hurt anyone, and in the process he himself would not be hurt. Whereas Akiyoshi, her ideals were all about peace and just achieving anything through dreams, right? So that's how they all start. But then it cuts further after the first chapter, and it says that Akiyoshi was no longer there. Which, in my opinion, I thought that meant this is going to be like a tragic romance where Kaede was reflecting on Akiyoshi, who had either just died or something terrible had happened to her, like she was in a coma or something. But no, this did not turn out to be like a tragic romance. If anything, this is a drama-filled tragedy of the loss of two friends who, through their own different ideals, end up losing a friendship with each other. How they end up drifting apart due to their own differences. And if I'm going to be honest with you guys, that was not the type of story I was expecting. But it still kept me going all the way through to the end. And I will tell you right now, this one actively hurt, because it was too damn real. But the simple fact is that this actually has the argument of ideals versus reality. For instance, like, Kaede tries to present himself as a very realistic person. He tries to avoid conflict with others so that way he does not hurt others, and that way he does not get hurt himself. Whereas Akiyoshi was more of an active person with trying to pursue her ideals in whatever way she could in order to achieve world peace, right? That's how it starts. However, as we go through, we find out that the group that they founded at first, Mowai, has become sort of corrupted, sort of rotting from just how huge of an influence it has on the university campus. And keep this in mind, Kaede is now currently in his final year, and as a former group member of Mowai, he has seen how it has just grown into this massive thing, this massive conglomerate of just people. Where it originally was about finding the person's ideal self, now it is more like a job hunting fair at this point. And to be quite honest, whilst I do understand Kaede's frustrations when he sees how Mowai has just like become corrupted to what he and Akiyoshi had. So essentially Kaede sees this and he wants to bring it down and essentially rebuild Mowai anew before he graduates as a senior. He wants to rebuild the organization that he and Akiyoshi originally founded together on the pursuit of ideals, instead of just hunting for a job. And to be honest, I kept wondering, well, what the heck happened between him and Akiyoshi, because the way he talks, it's like she died. And to put it simply, in his perspective, the Akiyoshi that he knew was dead, is from what I gather. Akiyoshi herself was not physically dead, but the ideal self that he had put her up on this pedestal in the past. How like she was this one true friend of his, and the image that he has of her from the past is what he idolizes. And that is what he views as no longer with them. And I gotta admit to you guys, that was a bit misleading, but it does kind of lend the perspective of how Kaede essentially despises Moai for what he believes is corrupting the organization that he and Akiyoshi founded together. So throughout this whole book, it shows him trying to find something, trying to dig up dirt on how to take down this organization, which he does succeed in. But later on, he comes to regret it. Like in the final stretch of the book, he comes to regret his own actions, because in the end, he didn't really do it for any noble reason. If anything, he finds out that he was essentially just striking out, because during the course of the book, we come to find out that essentially he and Akiyoshi ended up drifting apart after he started noticing that Akiyoshi herself was changing. She began changing from this idealistic person to someone who was focusing more on what was realistic. And in his mind, that felt like a betrayal of what he had worked for with this organization of Moai. And to be fair, the harsh lesson here is that, so for starters, how many people here who are currently listening to this once had this bright-eyed ideals of wanting to do something with their lives, wanting to pursue their dreams or whatever, only to have reality end up crushing them underfoot and saying, hey, dreams are not realistic here, do only what you can to survive, and more importantly, think small. Like, how many people have had that where their dreams have just been essentially crushed underfoot by just the sheer reality of the situation? Like, pursuing your dreams is a lofty goal, but learning how to reach that goal is what was realistic. But anyways, I'm getting off topic here. So the reason Kaede leaves the group in the first place is because of Akiyoshi supposedly changing to a more realistic mindset, which in his mind was the betrayal of her own self, of her idealistic self. So he puts the old Akiyoshi that he knew on this pedestal, right? To put it simply, these two are not the best of characters. To be completely honest with you guys, they are not the best of characters. Like, Kaede ends up striking out of the group that he helped found, that he left willingly, all because he wanted to tear it down and rebuild it in the way that he remembers from the past. Like, he is blinded by the memories of the past and wanting to return to that time, so that he believes that Akiyoshi would, in his mind, come to her senses and realize that she had actually betrayed herself. Whereas in Akiyoshi, she herself was pretty terrible. I'm not going to lie to you guys. Just the way that she changes, like, I get it. Over time, you have to learn how to be more realistic, because that's just the harshest way of life. But the way she goes about it, as it turns out, as Kaede is searching for ways to kind of bring down Moai, he finds a lot of people who were extremely pissed off at the group for supposedly helping them find jobs, only for it not to stick or something else to go wrong. And in the end, they feel angry, they feel betrayed. And in all honesty, that's where the problem is. Akiyoshi herself becomes so disconnected from the group that she founded, which in the end, she brings herself up as this like perfect leader, like essentially the hero of the group, and yet at the same time, she winds up hurting people through her own actions, through trying to be realistic. And in the end, it forces Kaede to essentially call her out on her bullshit, telling her, hey, in the end, you didn't really do Is for anyone? Essentially, you're only doing this for yourself. You were more than happy to cast me off years ago. And in the end, she's forced to accept that, yeah, she screwed up, but in the end, so did he. So these characters, that's the drama part of it, and in the end, it's a tragedy. Because these two did start out as friends, only to grow apart due to the harsh reality of real life. Both of them having different ideals and different goals in mind, and that is the whole premise of it. Though personally, I found myself with a lot of issues going forward. Like, I kept thinking about this and wondering, okay, what's going on here? Like, trying to put all the gears together. And I've really just come to the conclusion that these two were not the greatest characters, especially towards each other when you really think about it. And in the end, they're both just not the greatest people, but in the end, you realize, hey, that's just how life is sometimes, and that's the harshness of it. There are a lot of people out there who were dreamers once that had their ideals crushed underfoot by the harsh weight of reality. And that was Akiyoshi's standpoint. She was saying she wanted to continue pursuing her ideals, but she had to be realistic about it. And Kaede had the past her put up on this pedestal, and he just could not deal with it. So essentially he ended up striking out at her, because in his mind, he felt abandoned by her. And it was only later on, after he pretty much brought down the entire group that she brought up for years, and pointed out her own flaws right in her face, that she finally realized, hey, I've messed up, big time. But in the end, so did Kaede. Both of these characters are just... I'm sorry if I'm ranting here. I'm not really sure what else to say. Don't get me wrong, this was very well written, and it really does explore the university lifestyle and just how some people can change their interactions with others, and in some cases end up striking out at others out of pain, out of hurt. Because throughout all this, we see them both going against their own personal ideals. And I think the lesson here that we can all take is that, yes, sometimes it is important to be realistic, but if you end up sacrificing your own personal ideals out of personal grudges or for some other reason, then that makes you a hypocrite, and in the end you are no better than the people you wanted to rise up against, to be better than. And in all honesty, that kind of lesson really sticks with you, but it is a very hard and bitter pill to swallow, especially in our society of today. But I think I've ranted long enough about this one, so let's just get to the final score, shall we? So all in all, I would give I Am Blue, In Pain, and Fragile, and this is just my personal opinion, I would give it a score of at least 6.5 out of 10. And this is just me being generous, because while I do say it is a very well written book, I will not lie to you guys there. It is very well written, and it is very engaging at a good 301 pages. So it's very short, but it is enjoyable to read. But the biggest problem I have with these two main characters altogether, like Kaede and Akiyoshi, were not the best characters. I'm not even going to lie to you guys there. They were not the best. And there were some characters throughout that were more of the same. All in all, I don't think this is a bad book, but in the end, it does leave you with a bitter taste in your mouth by the end of it. So I will say, take this story with a pinch of salt if you choose to read it. Anyways, you guys, if you've stuck around to the end of this review, thank you again for listening to this crazy man's ramblings. And if you did like this video, feel free to leave a like or a comment down below, or even subscribe if this is the first video of my channel you've seen. If you have any other books you would like for me to review, please let me know in the comments down below, as I'm always up for some new ideas for reviews. Anyways, you guys, thank you all again for listening. This is Rambling Collector, signing off. Have an awesome day.